Yes! Oh, it is. It is. A Tuesday episode of Donno Daily here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Canes fans are happy again. You were miserable on Saturday night after turning an 8-point lead into a 3-point deficit in the blink of an eye against Florida State, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, as I like to say. But then last night, all of a sudden, optimism in the program, hopium, we like to call it, was renewed as a new chapter in the University of Miami athletic department began with the dismissal of athletic director Blake James. Now, I know that they called it in the official announcement, they called it a mutual agreement for Blake to walk away. You know, it's not really that. It was a very nice way to say we fired his ass. That was a done deal a month ago, Big Dan 305 says. Welcome, everybody, in on the chat. I already see Big Dan 305. I see Devin Jordan, our good pal. I see Raymond at GA Canes fan is with us. Guys, keep in mind, if you're watching us live here on Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, or even if you watch the replay on YouTube later on, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to 5 Reasons Sports on YouTube. Smash that like button. There you see it. Smash the like button. That's going to finesse that algorithm. Our videos will be available to more people on the web. More people will find out the wonderful things we do here at the 5 Reasons Sports Network, whether we're talking Heat, whether we're talking Dolphins, Canes, Florida Panthers, Miami Marlins. We got good Marlins content as well. Everything going on here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We want others to find us. Howdy to Ray Grullon. Welcome in. He says, bye-bye Diaz soon. We will talk about that. We got a good guest list today, a good mix, okay? We're going to be talking Miami Heat at 3:15 with our good pal Brady Hawk, who is the hardest working man at the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And we're going to talk a lot of Canes today. I'll talk Canes with you guys. I want to keep this show as interactive as possible. So those of you who are in the live chat, if you've got a thought on who you want the next athletic director to be of the University of Miami, which is, I think it's a little bit trickier to throw out names for ADs than it is names for head coaches, because we all know who the great football coaches are out there and the promising and the up-and-coming football coaches out there. I don't know how many of you actually go to bed at night dreaming and fantasizing about a certain person becoming the athletic director, but I do want to hear from you guys if you have ideas. No, Manny, we do not want your leftovers from FIU. We do not want Pete Garcia, who does have University of Miami ties, let's not forget. But no, I do not want Pete Garcia. So a couple of things to keep in mind today. Yeah, we're going to talk with Brady Hawk at 3:15. We're going to talk with Gary Ferman from Canesport, been a good friend of mine for years. And, of course, you know, he is the publisher at Canesport.com. He has been all over this athletic director stuff, and we can talk about potential changes at head coaching for football as well. As you might be able to notice, I'm using a new camera today. I haven't figured out on this much higher quality camera how to make it the image fill out the entire screen on StreamYard. I'll hopefully figure that out by tomorrow. And if you ever see this camera cut out, I don't think my microphone will cut out because that's hooked up differently. But if you ever see this camera cut out, I'll try and switch it over very quickly. I don't know how long the battery's going to last. Blame the globalists. Blame the elites. I don't know how long the battery is going to last on this camera because we got this started. Manny and I were chatting backstage about 2:45 p.m. I don't know if I'm going to have the juice to go all the way past 4 p.m. So we will find out. If I ever cut out, don't worry. Don't call the authorities or anything. I'll still be here. It just might be an issue of the camera dying on me. So before we dive headfirst into talking some Canes, to talking some Miami Heat, I think this is going to be kind of a light day on the Dolphins, but we'll hit them harder throughout the rest of the week. I want to remind you guys, we have an official sports bar here on Donno Daily. It's also an official spot for 5 Reasons Sports Network watch parties, the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. It's a great place to watch a game. It's a great place to watch a UFC pay-per-view fight with zero cover charge. They have flat-screen, high-definition TVs covering every wall. And yes, as you see there, we're going to have a watch party at the Quarterdeck Davie location this coming Tuesday, a week from today, November 23rd at the Quarterdeck Davie. We're going to watch the Miami Heat out at the Quarterdeck. It's going to be a great time. We had an awesome time at the last watch party. Come out to this one. Enjoy some of the awesome food. Oh, and Manny's going to wear the foam runners out there. We'll see how that goes. But Yeah, we're going to be watching the Miami Heat at the Quarterdeck Davy next week with the awesome appetizer. I tried the teriyaki chicken wings for the first time at the last watch party. They are legit. The buffalo shrimp is my favorite appetizer on the planet. The seafood is so fresh at the Quarterdeck. The sandwiches and burgers. Guys, they have 2-for-1 happy hour all day, every day. Come out and take advantage of that 2-for-1 happy hour with us. When you show up to the Quarterdeck on football Saturdays and Sundays, take advantage of the 5 for $15 ice cold buckets. And yeah, the jerk chicken sandwich was fire. That's what Manny had when we had our last watch party out there. So we'll be at the Quarterdeck Davy a week from today, next Tuesday, to watch the Miami Heat. If you want to peep their menu before you go or find the location nearest to you, check them out on the web at quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. And we have an official sports book here on Donno Daily. Guys, I've been having so much fun all season long at betus.com. It's like having Las Vegas in your pocket on your smartphone or on your computer. You can play slots, you can play cards, blackjack for real money at betus.com. And of course, you can bet on sports. They've got odds on the National Football League. They're in their 27th season with the NFL, NBA odds, college football, international soccer, UFC fights. There's something for everybody at betus.com. And they've got the best bonuses in the industry. BetUS is known as America's favorite sports book because not only do they have award-winning customer service, they have got the best bonuses. If you sign up today with our code 5RSN125, they're going to give you a 125% sign-up bonus. If you deposit $100, for example, they're going to give you 125% free play money on top of your deposit. It is the best deal you guys are going to find in the gambling space. So sign up today, betus.com, with our code 5RSN125. You bet, you win, you get paid. betus.com. Oh, kudos to the guys on the Six Ring. They did a live video show yesterday. I wished I could have joined them, but I was doing, I do soccer streams on Monday night, so I couldn't join the guys. But they were like kids in a candy store. I mean, to be able to react to the Blake James dismissal, something we've been waiting for all season, even before the season started, we were waiting on this. Listen, I know you're talking about someone who lost his job yesterday, and I don't want to completely make light of it. I'm sure he's going to land on his feet somewhere. Like he can get, I'm sure, another administrative job at a different university. He might even turn up as an athletic director at a smaller school. But in terms of Blake James at the University of Miami, he had to go. Blake had to go. If you see the state right now of, yes, the football program, but also the basketball program, and the baseball program. And I'll be honest, I don't follow things like tennis and women's soccer, golf as closely. I don't know what kind of state these programs are in, but the big ones, football, basketball, and baseball, has all been suffering. They have all been suffering. So I think anyone who follows this university and follows the athletics, you realize Miami needed changes. They need changes from the top down in order to be competitive in the ACC. You remember when Conor McGregor once said, "I'm not here to take part. I'm here to take over." I don't want the University of Miami just to become a middle tier or a bottom feeder athletic program in the ACC where they're just happy to collect that ACC network money. They're just happy to collect the revenue sharing. They're happy to cash the checks, but they don't really want to compete. They don't want to win titles. They don't want to win the Coastal. They don't want to compete for national championships. I do not want to be that school. That has not, at least not since the early 80s, settling has not been a part of the University of Miami's DNA. Hold on. I already lost my camera. Hold on. Oh, I knew this was going to happen. Hold on. We're switching. All right. Can you see me now? I knew I was going to have an issue with that battery. We will work on that. All right. So you don't see my beautiful face in HD anymore. You see it in standard D, but I try, man. I thought I would get more than 9 minutes of juice. I really, really did. I really did. But, you know, Blake James had to go. The way that Blake handled things after Mark Richt's resignation, in the 10 hours that followed the Mark Richt resignation, the way he handled that has aged very poorly. Okay. And that in itself should be fireable. Quick recap on that. Remember, Manny Diaz had just left a couple of weeks before the resignation of Mark Richt. Manny Diaz had just left to become the Temple head coach. Mark Richt then leaves. And instead of, for Blake James, Instead of holding a national search, which is what you should do to find your next football coach, you should hold a national search. Instead of doing that, he bypassed the search completely, and he paid a $4 million buyout to bring his own defensive coordinator back to become the head coach. That was handled very poorly, and I understand that there are some who are in positions of power, board of trustees members, who weren't happy about the way that James went about that they were not happy about the way that Rick resigns, and then with 10 hours, he goes and pays a $4 million buyout to bring Miami's own defensive coordinator back. And clearly it didn't work out, okay? So as far as the next athletic director for the University of Miami goes, this is going to be a massive hire. I don't have to tell you guys that. This is going to be a massive, massive hire, because this football program and this athletic department, because so much of it, of course, is tethered to the football program, has been on a downward spiral for the last 15 plus years. And the farther downward you let that spiral, the harder it is going to be to come back. So if you get this athletic director hire wrong, yeah, in a few years you can try again. But it's going to be even harder to bring your programs back if you get the hire after this wrong. Miami needs to find a new AD who is experienced, dynamic, charismatic, and aggressive, because you need to be aggressive to compete nowadays. The entire athletic department, from the AD down, it needs a facelift, okay? Now, if you make an investment in a proven athletic director who fulfills those characteristics that I talked about there, yeah, there also need to be further investments, monetary investments made in the budgets for head coaches and assistant coaches across the other major sports. Now, for Blake James getting let go, agreeing to part ways with the university, the timing of that is right, okay? Because, yeah, we can all agree Blake needed to go. And I think we're probably all in agreement that Manny Diaz should go next. Right? It doesn't have to be today. It doesn't have to be next week. But at the end of the season, Manny Diaz also needs to go. Now, letting go of Blake James first, this is the proper timeline. Like, this is the proper way, step by step, to do this. Because imagine in this hypothetical world where Miami got it wrong again, imagine firing Manny first, because some of you wanted him not even to be allowed back to Miami after they lost to FSU on Saturday. Like, fire him before he gets on the plane was what some people were saying. But if you had let go of Manny first, then God forbid you allow Blake James to stick around and have input on hiring Manny's replacement, okay? Like, you don't want that. Plus, the new AD, he needs to have that input. I mean, I know it's got to go through also the university president, the board of trustees for the budget, but I want the next AD. I want the next AD who comes in the door to have input and be instrumental in the finding and the hiring of your next head coach. So get the new AD in first before you make a big decision on the head coach. Now, as far as the next athletic director, and I want to go through to see what you guys. I know someone was, Manny jokingly said Pete Garcia, just jump off a bridge, Manny. I don't want that in my life. Lenoris Murray said Alonzo Highsmith. He's certainly going to be someone in the mix. Now, interestingly, Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald actually reported that Heisman Trophy winner Gino Torretta would be interested in the role. That's intriguing. Okay, it's a guy who understands the history of the program. Now, I reached out this morning to someone who he talks to board of trustees members, BOTs. He tends to be in the know with a lot of this stuff. He's given me great info in the past on football stuff. No, I don't want Kirby back either, Manny. And unfortunately, I asked him what's going on, if he knows of any AD candidates. He's not able to give me any candidates for the athletic director role at this time. It's possible maybe that the BOT and the administration have it narrowed down to a short list, or it's possible that, this person just hasn't been told anything yet. He will be in the future. Now, yeah, this has been coming up in the live chat. A lot of Hurricanes fans want Alonzo Highsmith as the new AD. He has claimed in the past he wants this job. I would put the same concern, though, on Alonzo Highsmith that I would also put on Gino Torretta. Like, there is no doubt that Alonzo, like Gino, they understand, of course, the uniqueness of the University of Miami. They understand, I think, at least in theory, what it would take to bring the football program back. And yeah, Alonzo Highsmith is a guy who's been in the trenches before down here as a very high-level player. Now, he's also been a very successful executive personnel guy in the National Football League. But my only question to him would be, is he willing and able to be the overseer not only of the football program? Because let's remember, being the athletic director, it's not only being the football czar. You're not only the overseer of the football program, you're also the overseer for basketball, baseball, softball, women's soccer, tennis, golf, swimming, diving, etc. Sorry if I left anyone's sport out of there. And also, is Alonzo Highsmith and Gino Torretta, would they be prepared and able to fulfill all of the fundraising that comes with being athletic director? That's actually something Blake James was pretty good at, to give him credit. The fundraising side, he was pretty good with that stuff. So I don't know if he is or he isn't. I don't know if Gino Torretta is or isn't up to all that stuff, but let's remember they've never done it, okay? Now, football is the most important thing to a lot of us, but it's not the only part of the athletic director job. So, yeah, my question to you guys in the chat would be, you hear names who were fantastic players here. And in the case of Alonzo Highsmith, he is a successful, highly regarded NFL executive. So would you put a guy like Alonzo, even more than Gino probably, at the top of your list for new AD? Or would you be a little skeptical just given like he's got great experience in a certain space, but it's not exactly the same as this gig? Because again, there's more that goes into that job than just football. Like, I'll give you an example on Alonzo Highsmith. You remember a couple of years back when they hired Ed Reed to be the chief of staff. And I love Ed Reed, right? But he's not fulfilling kind of the same role that we thought someone might be, because Alonzo Highsmith got thrown around a lot. He could be the next chief of staff for Miami football, where that would have been a position below the AD, above the head coach, Manny Diaz, and your job would be strictly overseeing football matters. I thought that would have been perfect for Alonzo Highsmith. Like, I thought a role like that, like kind of being the GM of the football program, would have been great. I don't know if he would be willing and able to be the overseer of the entire athletic department. So we'll circle back to all this. And yeah, Brooklyn Rob says Alonzo could get all the ex-players to donate. Well, that would be a big part of the fundraising. And thankfully, we've got some generous ex-players. John Beeson has donated big money. Calais Campbell has donated big money recently. So yeah, we need to start, turning them upside down and shaking money out of those pockets, man. But something that was really good, Blake James's departure was not the only cool thing that came out of yesterday. We also got a Miami Heat victory, my friends. No Jimmy, no Bam, no problem. And we are joined here by the hardest working man at 5reasonsports.com, the king of the 5 takeaways, the king of the recaps, the king of the previews. Brady Hawk at Brady Hawk 305 joins us. Brady, so that was, let's start with Tyler Hero, because that was freaking impressive, and he continues to look the part this year.
Yeah, it still is impressive, but I think we're getting to the point where I asked Kyle Lowry, a couple of games ago, is it even surprising anymore? Because when he first got to the team, he said Tyler surprised them. And when I asked him that, he said, no, not at all. Like, they're not surprised when Tyler Hero scores 26, 27. This is just him. Not that he's going to score 26 a game this season, but it's just Tyler Hero now. The stuff he's able to do right now on the ball, as you mentioned, without Jimmy and Bam, he sees doubles when Bam and Jimmy are playing. When they're not playing, I was looking at, going back over the game, he was having 10 eyes at him when he had the ball in his hands most possessions. And I think the craziest thing about it is that, first of all, the 3 balls falling this year was just something he hasn't had last season. 4 for 4 from 3 in the first half, but obviously the mid-range is where you're going to go to. He is just absolutely killing it in that space. They're not giving him, he's creating separation on his own just through the lift that he has on his jumper. Like, every shot he takes down there is a difficult shot, but it's not a difficult shot for him. So seeing that development this season has just been like, that's the big thing and why he's making such a jump in the scoring column.
Do you think he will ever get any kind of an apology from Charles Barkley? He made those asinine comments a couple of weeks ago that like, oh, he can only do it against backups. He can't take over games. Like, I mean, first of all, even when Tyler comes off the bench, it's not like he's only playing against backups. He's averaging over 30 minutes a game. He's seeing starters on the court. Now, these last couple of games, he is balling out as a starter. Will we ever get an apology from Charles?
Probably not. Probably probably not. But it is crazy because you sit there and say that he's probably getting more minutes most games than Jimmy and Bam. Like we're talking about a guy that just because he's entering at the 6 minute mark of the first quarter does not mean anything differently. And I think the part to look at, he's third in scoring in the fourth quarter this season, which that just should tell you the whole story right there. He's not scoring against bench guys. He's in when the game gets tough and it's in the fourth quarter and it's a close game. He's on the floor and he's third in the league in fourth quarter scoring. So I think that'll tell you right there alone. But to answer your question, I don't think he'll double back and and go back on that take.
So heading into last night's game, Jimmy was listed questionable. Bam was listed probable. Neither of them ended up playing. Are you expecting to see both of them or at least one of them back after the Heat return home?
I would definitely expect Bam to be playing. I think yesterday, Spo said it wasn't that it got worse, but it's also that it didn't get better. Being on this West Coast trip, he has not had any light games. These have been all hard fought games that he has to be on the floor in these extra minutes. I think they saw OKC on the schedule and said, take the night off, Bam, like try to let them handle it. Not that you can have that type of mentality all the time because they could easily have dropped that game, but they trusted it. They wanted to give him that type of rest in that game. I would expect them to be back Wednesday. Jimmy, I'm not really sure. He's just kind of been that questionable tag. I think it's going to be up to him. I would think that he would play in one of the games, back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know if they throw him back in the mix and he plays on a back-to-back to kind of get back, but you never know with Jimmy. Jimmy kind of dictates. He's a guy that doesn't like to sit out. He likes to play all the games, so I probably would expect to see him play in one of those, and that's when you're really going to see his team get back on track because this is a lighter part of the schedule we're seeing. So maybe they will, put him in Thursday, let him take one more night off Wednesday just because it is a Pelicans team that, doesn't have much star power. And I think they'll go from there.
Before that road trip, if you told me they would go 2-3, I would have been pretty bummed to hear that. But I mean, I think finishing on a high note always feels nice. So
Yeah.
How do you grade that 5-gamer? Like what impressed you most and what was your biggest concern coming out of that 2-3 road trip?
Yeah, I think we would all feel that way thinking about 2-3. But I think if you said Jimmy Butler wasn't going to play for three and three quarters of the games on this road trip, I think you'd be pretty happy with 2-3, and especially thinking about Bam not playing in one of them. So I think for one, the Denver game, you're not winning in Denver. Like that one's thrown out. But I think you walk away from those LA games saying you probably win those with Jimmy, and you probably win those if Duncan Robinson's making shots. So I don't think it's a terrible thing. It's not like you got blown out in LA and you're absolutely terrible when you don't have Jimmy Butler on the floor and it's just a mess, kind of how it was last season. You see them compete to the end. Obviously, both LA teams are without their best player as well, so it's hard to say that as well. But just seeing them compete, I think it's a good thing that you have Duncan Robinson these last two games of the trip shooting the ball well, because that's probably bigger than anything, bigger than the record. If you come back to this later part of the schedule, come back home, and you have Duncan Robinson playing like Duncan Robinson, that's a big thing. You have Tyler Hero ascending. You have Kyle Lowry still trying to fit in as a player on this team. Obviously, he's a guy that can fit in anywhere, but it's a lot harder when you don't have Jimmy Butler next to you on the floor. So overall, I don't think it's terrible. I think the number sounds a little bad when you say it, but 2-3 after the situation they've been in, and we knew heading into this beginning of the season, this schedule was going to be really tough early on. So being able to go through and still be sitting in the upper half of the East, I think it's not a bad thing.
So we gave Duncan Robinson prior to the last two games a lot of tough love here on this show. I'll refer to it as tough love. He's been so much better, and his confidence looks better over these last couple. Do you think that's all it was, confidence, or was there anything schematic? Have we gotten any hints from Duncan, Spoelstra, or anyone else what maybe the factors were in Duncan looking more like his old self these last two games?
Yeah, I don't really think it was anything schematic. Like you look at, he was getting open looks. Like a lot of his looks were not really even being contested. And oddly enough, when they are contested, they always seem like they go in more often. So I don't really know about that case. But Duncan Robinson shooting and coming back in these last two games, I think was big. It definitely was all in his head. Like I think it was all about that. I think you could tell just the way once he gets, two to fall early in that game against Utah, it kind of all started to click. And as I said before, it wasn't going to be one game where you kind of say, oh, he's fully back. It had to be two in a row. Like I felt like you had to get two in a row, because then you play bad against OKC and you start saying to yourself, oh, was that a fluke game where I played well? Now you have two to back, you go back home and you're shooting the ball like yourself. I think you needed that type of game. I think Jimmy and Bam not playing and allowing him to get more shots up was big time as well. But I do think overall it was all in his head. it's going to happen. I don't think they could have really done anything schematically to change it. I think they put him in different spots this season, which is helpful. They, obviously last season, if he wasn't making them, they were going to have to drill the same thing over and over and over. Now having Kyle Lowry and all these extra pieces with Tyler be able to be on the ball so much more, they can kind of put him in different spots, see what works. But ultimately, he's just going to have to, have them fall and kind of get back on track.
One of the guys that I really root for off the bench, and I love seeing him get minutes, is Max Strus. He went 3 for 5 from 3 yesterday, and he does a lot of little things, Brady. Like, how would you evaluate his performances lately?
Yeah, I think, he's huge. I think he said in an interview with Anthony Chang that he was still trying to get his endurance back, because obviously when you mess up your knee and that type of re-injury, you're not really doing much movement for what 2.5 weeks that he was out, something like that. So trying to get back on track. I don't think that they were expecting a lot from him early on. He got going from 3 last night, and I think he's the ultimate role player for this team. Like, if you look at trying to plug holes, they weren't afraid to put him at the 4 the other night when they were missing front court guys. They could put him at the 2 and feel comfortable putting him in different spots. Not that his role expands, because he pretty much plays the same role every time, but he kind of fits the mold of this team in the words of, he's so positionally sound defensively. Like, he's not one of those guys that are really like a great defender that's going to hound you, but he always gets the charges, is why Miami leads the league in charges. He's one of the reasons he's always in the right spot. You trust him on a night-to-night basis. Like, the players trust him that he's going to knock down his first 3 every single night for some reason that I don't know why. But just seeing him evolve in that matter, teams, if they start to overplay him and you play him next to Duncan even more, which they have, he's able to get to the rim like we saw in the G League or the Summer League. So I think just seeing that expansion, continue to get him the ball, and when he's shooting the ball with confidence, he could probably shoot it as good as anybody on this team or in this league.
We're joined here by Brady Hawk, does an awesome job covering the Miami Heat for 5reasonsports.com. Hear him on 5 on the Floor as well. So road trip over. I look at these upcoming, like the next 5 games, let's say 2 of them at home, and then they're back on the road mostly in the East next time. So the Heat have the Pelicans at home coming up tomorrow, home against the Wizards, at the Pistons, at the Timberwolves. I see opportunity knocking here, Brady. Now the Wizards have a really good record, yeah, but how do you think, they 2-3 on this tough road stretch with some players out? I'm hoping guys get healthy again quickly here, talking about people like Bam and Jimmy, but how do you expect these next 5 games to play out?
Yeah, I think if you go 4-1, like that's kind of the path. Like, this is an easy stretch of games. Now, Washington, I think, would be easier before the season when you're looking at it. They're obviously hot. Yeah. But Bradley Beal was out last game, so that's another thing to kind of make note of. But even if he's playing, it's, we were talking about it yesterday. It's one of those teams that kind of play above their heads early on. This is not going to be a top of the East team. This is probably not going to be a bottom of the East playoffs team. Like, they're probably going to fall off. Montrezl Harrell, I think, was top 3 in MVP rankings on one of the things. Like, that's not going to be sustainable in any way. But I think if you can go 4-1, I think you should definitely beat the Pelicans. I think you get one, and you'll maybe split Washington, if anything. And Detroit, you should definitely get. And Minnesota's a mess right now. So, and if Jimmy Butler's playing by then, which he definitely should be, I don't see him losing in Minnesota in any way possible. So this is a stretch where you really get back on track and you get back to that, just trying to find a flow of what you are and who you are as a team. Continue to try to get Duncan going, continue to let Tyler ascend, and you're just trying to figure out these young guys, because ultimately what Jimmy and Kyle are going to be. As much as we say Kyle's plugging in, trying to find his way early on the season, we know by playoff time who Kyle Lowry is going to be and what role he's going to be playing. So seeing these other guys get going, 4-1, I would think, is probably the path.
So on the court, things are looking pretty good. What about off the court? I know Woj had a little update on the tampering stuff a couple of days ago, looking into the Heat and the Bulls. Like they have made significant steps forward in the tampering investigation. What do you expect is going to come out of all this?
Yeah, that stuff just confuses me, because tampering in general it's an odd thing to bring up, because Jimmy Butler or Kyle Lowry is the godfather of his daughter. Like, he's not going to communicate with a guy like that. Like, I don't understand the specifics of it or what goes into the rule. But it just doesn't really make sense. I guess they were saying a fine would kind of come out of it. I don't see them being able to strip Miami's draft picks, because frankly, they don't really have many.
Yeah, so, right. Take them. Go ahead.
I don't think that's an avenue they go. Maybe they just up the fine a little bit. But either way, Miami has Kyle Lowry. So either way, I guess that would be the only way they can go about it. But all that off the court stuff just makes no sense. And obviously Chicago, the same thing. I guess there was no relationship prior there with, what was it, Lonzo Ball, I think the guy.
Lonzo
So
Ball.
there was no relationship there either. I think the Jimmy thing, it just makes it weirder because of the relationship they had prior.
Brady Hawk does an awesome job. What can we expect this week, my friend? Hosting duties and, of course, any stories you're working on.
Yeah, stories, 5 takeaways after the games. And then now on Twitter, I'm doing some video breakdowns of kind of the film instead of just doing the articles. So that's something new at Brady Hawk 305.
That's good stuff, man. Brady Hawk, follow him on Twitter at Brady Hawk 305. Oh, let's answer Manny's question on the way out because, yeah, and I didn't mention that after these next 5 games, the 6th game will be in Chicago to take on the Bulls. Heat are 9-5 right now. Chicago 10-4. Both of these teams have been 2 of the better stories in the East with the way that they've been playing. Are the Bulls for real?
I think they are. Like I personally like Chicago as a team. I like what they put together. I think the surprise of many is just how good they've been defensively because they weren't known on paper to be a good defensive team. Zach LaVine's one of those guys that when he tries, he can be. But when you have DeMar DeRozan, looking at last night, when you have DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine going off like that and being able to score at will, isolations, it's just a scary team. I don't know in a 7-game series what they're going to look like if you put them, match them up with Miami, for instance, just with what Miami has as a team aspect. But looking at regular season, they're probably going to be, at the top of the East when it all comes down to it, just because of what they got from DeRozan. People were saying the DeRozan pickup was one of the worst pickups of the offseason. I think a Bleacher Report article said it was the #1 worst pickup. And
wow, I didn't agree with that even then. No way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think even when we were talking about maybe Miami snagging him,
yeah.
you get DeMar DeRozan. You worry about the spacing and all this stuff later. You allow that to be Eric Spoelstra's job. You don't allow that. You get the best players available. Chicago did that, and he's fitting in really well. So I do think they're for real.
Awesome stuff, Brady Hawk. Thank you so much, man. We'll talk to you again next week. And, of course, next week we can do a lot more hyping for that next Heat Nuggets game, which is going to be on November 29th. So we can talk. The Jokic brothers. Well, Jokic brothers, we coming for, we be coming for these guys. We're going to beat them up. Markieff Morris, you're in big trouble, my friend. We'll talk about that next week, Brady.
For sure. Appreciate you having me on.
I love it. Always. Brady Hawk does a fantastic job. Hardest working man at 5 Reasons Sports. All right, in about 8 minutes, we're going to talk with Gary Ferman, Canesport. We're going to talk about the athletic director vacancy and the potential vacancy at head coach. Manny Diaz still occupies that seat, at least for the moment. Before we get into some of that stuff, guys, I want you to check out the newest partner here on Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am so proud to be partnered with BlockFi. You guys know I am all about that crypto life. Those who are already active in cryptocurrency, you should take advantage of this great offer that we can get you through BlockFi. And if you haven't started yet in crypto, but you're looking to get started, BlockFi can set you up with ease, guys. There's so much education they can offer as well. So here's what you get out of BlockFi. If you're asking why BlockFi, not, XYZ exchange or broker, guys, you can open an interest account with your crypto and earn 8% APY. That is called passive income. Your money is going to make you even more money. So even when your crypto values are climbing and going up, when your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, etc., are blowing up, you're also earning 8% APY on top of that. This is just financially sound, and you're not going to find interest rates like that in too many other places. BlockFi has your hookup. And you can also apply for the BlockFi Rewards Visa Signature Credit Card. I'm going to do that this week myself. I want to get this card because with that card, you can earn unlimited 1.5% back in Bitcoin. So let's stack those sats, my friends. And you can sign up at BlockFi. We have a referral link. And where you find that is the description for this YouTube video. So you go to the description of this YouTube video, you will find a link that will give you our referral link for BlockFi. We've included it in the show description. So if you click on that link and sign up, you can start earning 8% APY, and you can apply for the unlimited 1.5% cash back in Bitcoin with the BlockFi Rewards Visa signature. So let's make some money and stack those sats, my friend. So, all right, we talked with the Canes about possibilities for the next athletic director. I am even more intrigued by the possibilities at next football head coach. And I will reiterate, I want the next athletic director that I hope they have a thorough national all-inclusive search on who the next AD might be. But get this done as quickly as you possibly can while getting it done right, because I want the next athletic director to have a big hand in deciding the next football coach. And hey, if you bring in an athletic director that wants to keep Manny Diaz, you probably shouldn't be hiring that athletic director. So I would imagine your next AD is going to want to handpick his head football coach because, yeah, at a school like Miami where football is king, so much of the evaluation of athletic director will have to do with how the football team is performing. So the next AD is going to want to have the right football coach to try and bring Miami back to prominence. And I do expect that Manny Diaz's days at the U are numbered. I think he'll make it through the season, and I have no problem with that whatsoever, because to fire him tomorrow and elevate someone from his staff to interim head coach doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So I think he makes it to the end of the season, but he will not make it to next season. I do believe that Mario Cristobal is probably on top of Miami's wish list, and Lane Kiffin is probably the second choice. I think Miami is serious about this. I think they want to make the investment necessary to bring in a top name, but that's Miami's perspective. The question that I have, and I'm going to see if Gary Ferman, who's going to join me in a moment, has any sort of a insight or a gut feeling on this. Like when you think about, you make up your wish list. If you really have Mario Cristobal at the top of your list, as he probably should be. He's doing a fantastic job with Oregon, and he's got the Miami ties. And Lane Kiffin, I'm a big fan of the Lane train. The question would be, do those guys want Miami, okay? Does Mario want to leave a great situation in Oregon where they have tons of resources? They got that Nike money. Does Lane Kiffin want to leave an SEC job to come here, okay? So I think Miami is still a big job, but right now Miami's a little bit in the mud. And those jobs are bigger jobs, bordering on massive jobs. So I'm very happy to bring on the program. I've known this man for many years, but it's the first time he's joining us here on Donno Daily. So we'll roll out the red carpet for him and offer him a big welcome. He is the publisher at Canesport.com. And also, he does a damn fine job on YouTube. So Canes fans, I hope you're watching Good Morning Canesport every day with Gary Ferman and Matt Shodell. I get a lot of good info from you guys, and I enjoy the content. Gary, good afternoon. How are you?
Thank you, Alex. Pleasure to be here with you, man. Always been a big fan of yours, as you know.
Oh, thank you so much, man. And okay, so let's start with the job that's open right now, and that's athletic director, okay? And probably everybody who follows this program can agree that, moving on from Blake was the right decision. So where do you think they go next, Gary? Like, do you have any suspicion on any possible names out there? And would you rather go the route of an established AD who doesn't necessarily have any connection to the program, or are you like some of the fans who will really champion the cause of an Alonzo Highsmith?
They can go multiple ways, Alex, to answer your question. I threw out some of this in a column this morning on Canesport.com. If I were running point on this, the first phone call I would make is Dan Radakovich at Clemson. To me, one of the best athletic directors in the country, an experienced guy, went to Miami Business School. So you've got that banner that you can hang up. One of our graduates at Miami Business is now running the athletic department. Experienced guy, was at LSU, Georgia Tech for many years. Now he's been at Clemson, I think 8 years. The success that Clemson football has had speaks for itself. You look at what he's done from a fundraising standpoint there, raising ballpark $200 million and building some of the best athletic facilities in the country. And then the last thing to me that should be very appealing to the University of Miami is the fact that the academic support programs that he's put together at Clemson, their athletes, Alex, have traditionally always had a cumulative 3.5 GPA, and I believe last year it was like 3.6, which is phenomenal for an athletic program. So they're graduating their athletes, they're excelling in the classroom, they're raising money in huge amounts, they're building great facilities, they're winning championships on the field, and he's the guy that's in charge of it all, and he knows what all this is supposed to look like. If I'm the president's office, Rudy Fernandez, and these guys that are running this, that's the first phone call I make. And I wrote that this morning on our Canesport.com website. If that doesn't appeal to them, and you're going to make a run at Mario Cristobal, then the next guy I would look at is the athletic director who hired Mario Cristobal and had the foresight to make that move at Oregon. And that's a guy by the name of Rob Mullins, also a very experienced athletic director, a guy that's done many of the same things that Radakovich has done at Clemson. They're a very successful athletic program across the board, not just football. Pretty much almost every sport at Oregon is successful. I would look at a guy like that. And then if you want to go outside the box, you mentioned Alonzo Highsmith. And, I think Alonzo would be very interested in the job. He brings a different angle to the situation than your traditional athletic director. If you hired him, you would want to surround him with an experienced layer right next to him, underneath him, however you want to call it. I think they could do that. I think that Alonzo knows a lot of people. I think he could get a decent number 2, 3 in underneath them. So that's an angle they can look at. There's another guy that I identified, Alex, who's out in Vegas now with the Vegas Knights. He's an executive in their NHL franchise out there. His name is Jim Frivola.
I know Jim.
Yes. Jim was at Miami. Him. He was a deputy athletic director under 2 athletic directors, Paul D. Kirby Hocutt, has since gone on and worked in NFL front offices for many years. He worked in the front office with UFC and now in the NHL Golden Knights, a very experienced guy. I think he brings a little bit of that Miami mindset. He went to Miami. He understands Miami. I think that he brings an enormous amount of experience to the table. I would look at him. If I don't hire him as athletic director, I would do everything I could do to try to bring him back as a number 2 guy, potentially, and just get him back involved if he would do it. I think he would be very interested in the athletic director position. So when you put all this together, Alex, and I'm sure there'll be other names that will emerge. There's been speculation about Tom Jurich, who was a great athletic director for many, many years at the University of Louisville. There's speculation that he might be interested in the job. And, he's an older guy, 64, 65 years old now. I don't know how that fits into the plan. I mean, even like a Radakovich, I think is 62, 63. Do they want an older guy? Do they want a little bit of a younger guy that they can, grow with over a 10-year period or so? I'm not really sure what they're thinking in that regard. But I think there's a bottom line to all this, Alex, and that is that they are going to have some really good choices. I think this is a very exciting time for the University of Miami. I love everything I'm seeing and hearing over the last month or so from what they've been doing. And I think it's headed in a good direction for the U, and I think the fans should be very happy.
And on that note, I'm glad you brought that up about the last month because you wrote, about a month ago, give or take a week. So you wrote a great column at Canesport about what you're hearing has been going on behind the scenes with Board of Trustees members and the raising of funds to really improve that budget for athletics and be aggressive. So, I mean, no matter what happens here, and I guess after reading that piece of yours, I don't think anybody should be too surprised about Blake James being let go. And now we kind of turn our eyes to see what happens with Manny Diaz. But you are correct. You're getting the sense that the University of Miami is realizing they can't just be a passenger anymore. Like they can't just be a program that kind of half-asses everything. And, they're happy to make their cut of the ACC money, but they don't want to really invest and compete for ACC titles and national titles. It sounds like, Gary, they are ready to turn over a new leaf and invest in their own athletics.
Yeah, they are. The University of Miami has been thriving. The hospital has been doing exceptionally well. The university has been doing exceptionally well. This is not a poor university anymore, like it's been, at times in its history. That doesn't mean that, and I think we got to qualify that also. It doesn't mean they want to throw $20 million in the garbage can. Okay,
right.
Like they're willing to spend money, but they want there to be a plan. They want to spend it smartly, and they want to come out on the other side with an athletic program that is as good as any in the country. Alex, they can do this. I'm telling you, when you look at the quality of guys that I think, Rob Mullins, I'm not sure, but like some of the guys I mentioned are clearly, I think, an option for them. And I think if you talk about coming out of this with a quality athletic director, and then you segue on to a football coach, and they can maybe lure a Mario Cristobal from Oregon, boom, man, you're snapping your fingers and you're rocking and rolling at the U, and you're full of hope, and everyone's excited, and the entire mood in the room changes at the snap of a finger. And I think they can pull this off, Alex. I think that's the road they're headed down, and I hope they can find their way. They don't get into some detours and stuff.
So, and let's talk about potential head coaches, right? Because I'm not expecting Manny Diaz to be retained beyond this season, right? And I mentioned right before you came on, I think the names who would be at the top of Miami's list to at least take a shot at would be Mario Cristobal, who you mentioned. I think Lane Kiffin should also be a phone call you make to his agent or whoever represents him. And then, if you were to miss on these guys, names like Mark Stoops would come up, Luke Fickell. Yeah, I hear Tom Herman's name thrown around sometimes. But, as far as let's start with Mario Cristobal, okay? He obviously has connections as a former player and coach at Miami, and he still has roots here and relatives here because he's from the community as well. So obviously you can use some of that sentimentality and, of course, money, because you would have to pay him to lure him here. But in the case of Cristobal, he's also in right now a very good situation in Oregon where the team is playing well. He's loved over there. He would have pretty good job security if he did decide to stay there. And they've got, a ton of money and resources over there. So, I mean, in your mind, is it, because I'm allowing myself to hope a little bit here, like how difficult do you think it would be, assuming Miami is able to offer Mario a competitive salary? So we have to make that assumption. As far as everything else, leaving Oregon for Miami, would you feel pretty optimistic about Miami's chances there?
I think if Miami goes about it the right way, absolutely. I think the key with a guy like that is going to be the commitment you're willing to make. When it's 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and you need to get your defensive backs coach up to Jacksonville for a high school game that starts at 7, and you got to be able to race them over to Tamiami Airport or whatever, get them on a plane, fly them to Jacksonville, have a car waiting for them in Jacksonville Airport to take them to the game. The car waits for him at the game. When 10 o'clock comes and the game's over and he shook hands and took pictures with all the babies that he's needed to, he needs to be able to get in that car, get back to the airport where the plane's sitting there waiting for him to bring him back to Miami so that he could be at a 8 a.m. Team meeting on Saturday morning for the noon kickoff that's coming up. And, that's how these programs that are successful operate. They have resources, they have a commitment. And that's just one example, Alex. There's so many more. I mean, you got to be able to hire the best people. If you're going to demand a work ethic from the people working under you, you have to be able to pay them appropriately. You've been around these programs for a while. You understand, if you're expecting somebody to be at work at 6 a.m. and not get home till 11 o'clock at night, and there's a wife at home with young kids that's having to be, superhero mom and all those things, there better be compensation for that. Yeah. You're making major life sacrifices at that point. You're giving up your kids' little league games. You're not there for every school assembly. You can go on and on, Alex. I mean, there's a lot of sacrifices that coaches and support staff at a winning program where everybody is undeniably committed 24 hours a day to the success of that program. You're asking those people to make major sacrifices. And there's a difference between that and a lot of programs around the country where, that's not the expectation. And but if you want to be Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and you want to compete at the upper echelon of the game year after year after year, most people would tell you who have been there that that's what it takes, Alex. And, you got to be able to pay those people top to bottom, the coaches, the support staff. You got to have layers. You got to have enough personnel to execute everything you need to execute. When 25 letters need to be written for the linebacker coach to send out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you got to have people in the office that can help with those letters. It's all the little things, and there's just so many of them, Alex. And it's like Miami has never operated like this. Miami has always gotten away with doing with less, and college football has changed. It's not the same game that it was in the 1980s and 1990s. And Miami has to adapt. And I think there's a willingness now to do it. They just have to keep themselves from like literally puking when they see the price tag of it all, because it's going to be unlike anything they've ever seen before at the U. And they're going to have to fight their instinct to throw up.
Now, right. And for what it's worth, I mean, my top choice would be Mario Cristobal, but I'll call him option 1A. I'm also a big fan of Lane Kiffin. I'll call him my option 1B. And to be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that Mario has so many connections to the program, that might be the tiebreaker for me. Like, if all things were equal, I'm not even sure if I wouldn't prefer Lane Kiffin over Mario Cristobal. How big a fan are you or aren't you of Lane? And if he was the guy, I think he could do great here.
I'm a huge fan of the offensive product I see on the field. And yeah, that's a name that's coming up a lot. And I would agree that after Mario, that's a name that should be considered. I think that when the University of Miami does their due diligence, that there's a lot of red flags that are going to pop up there. And that's something that Lane's been fighting, for some years now. He had to go back to FAU and kind of rehabilitate himself a little bit. Change the image around him. Now he's getting a new opportunity to Ole Miss. And a lot of people that know him say that he's changed, that he's grown up, whatever words you want to use. And, I don't have firsthand knowledge of everything that went on over the last 10, 15 years with him. I know, he's had a lot of issues at almost every job he's had, Alex, let's be honest. So there's going to be some red flags that Miami would have to work through if they pursue Lane Kiffin. I think Mario is a more logical top target. I would be pursuing that with every ounce of zealousness that I can muster. If I were in Rudy Fernandez's seat right now, playing point on this thing, because Mario checks off every box, every single one, from the connections that you're talking about to the work ethic he brings to the situation, his ability to recruit. Mario Cristobal comes to the University of Miami. Now all these local 4 and 5 star kids that are leaving South Florida are now, majority of them coming to Miami. I feel comfortable saying that. And the thing, when you talk about recruiting, that really jumps out to me, Alex, is last year, in a COVID year at the University of Oregon, where kids could not visit campus,
right?
He went out and he couldn't visit them. He recruited the top player to Oregon in 9 different states.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
They have 0 in-state talent at Oregon. Okay.
Right.
And this is what he's doing year after year. So now you take this guy, you take the natural resources of South Florida, you start keeping the majority of the top talent at home. You're never going to get everybody, but you keep the majority of the top talent home. And then you supplement it with the top player in 9 different states, like he's doing out there and proving he's capable of doing. Dude, you're back in the top 5 and you're back to competing for championships like they are this year. And they're just getting started. Like, I know this is, I guess this fourth year there, I believe. But they're really just getting started. I mean, he's building recruiting classes there. As good as this year's team is, and they've been killed by injuries, and they have an average quarterback, and I don't know if they're going to make it all the way to the playoff. They have a very tough game Saturday night at Utah. If they make it through that, they'll be in the PAC championship game. They'll be trying to win that for the 3rd straight year. I mean, imagine that, winning your conference title 3 years in a row. And then if they win that, they're going to the college football playoff. So, like, he's right there. He's number 3 in the country right now. So he's got a very good team coming back there next year. It's going to take a full commitment by Miami to convince him to make that move. But I think they can do it.
I got 2 more questions to ask you. And one of those is, because obviously we've talked about Mario, choice number 1. We've talked about Lane, who could be a popular name. Beyond those 2, is there anybody else you think? Because I think anyone could understand if Mario were to decide, I don't want to leave Oregon. If Lane were to decide, I don't want to leave Ole Miss, right? I mean, I threw out a couple of other names like Mark Stoops, Luke Fickle, Tom Herman. Are there any other names outside of my top 2 choices?
Yeah, there's a whole group of those guys. I'll call them the PAC. And
yeah,
if I were the University of Miami, I would be very concerned about going to the PAC. This is what the University of Miami has been doing for 20 years, going to the PAC.
Going to the
PAC. Like, you tell me What's the difference? Like, you can like one guy's scheme better than another guy's scheme. That's subjective opinion, whatever. You tell me what's the difference between Dave Aranda and Manny Diaz. Both have been defensive coordinators. Manny Diaz has been a head coach 3 years now. Dave Aranda has been a head coach for a little more than a year and a half, almost going on 2 years. Dave Aranda's done a good job at Baylor. He went from 2 wins year one, and I think he's got 8 already this year. I'd have to look at their record, but he's got good things going on at Baylor. He's a guy that people are going to look at. He's a very good football coach. All these guys. What makes Luke Fickell or Fickle or however you pronounce his last name? What makes him a great candidate for the University of Miami? Has he ever recruited South Florida? Does he have relationships with the local high school coaches? Is he going to walk into a room in South Florida and own the room and captivate people and stir imaginations and things like that? I don't think so. I look at that guy. I see Al Golden, who probably, Alex, was more charismatic. Okay.
Yeah.
Al Golden could have been a really good head coach.
He was so charismatic. He really was.
He just had it with him to make the moves he needed to make to take it up a notch. Yeah. I think Al Golden could have been a very good head coach. But my point is we've been watching this go on at Miami for many, many years. If I'm Miami, I don't go to the Pac. I'm whale hunting. I'm putting my Pat Riley championship rings on, and I'm going for Mario Cristobal. I'm not letting them say no. That's me personally. I would be very careful. The worst thing that can happen to this program is to get into another 5-year contract with a guy that isn't good enough.
Right. I know. Last thing I want to ask you, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, but it's really Trevor Gaffney putting you on the spot because we like to take questions from our viewers, and Trevor really wants you to be definitive. And I want to note, if there are any aggregators watching this, we are asking Gary for his opinion. He's not breaking any news here. He's looking at the crystal ball. No. So hold on. Let me just read this for the people who are listening, not watching. Trevor Gaffney says, Alex, ask him who he thinks the Canes coach will be in 2022, please.
I'm opening up my Seminole Hard Rock app. We now have betting here on sports in South Florida, and I'm going to Odds Boosts.
Ooh.
and it's gonna let me pick who I think will be the Hurricanes head coach next year. If I had to make a bet right now at the Hard Rock Sportsbook, I would bet on Mario Cristobal. I think they will go all in to try to get him. I think that they will get a receptive audience. And if they are willing to make the commitments that they need to make to get it done, I think they can land him. So that's where my bet would be right now. We'll see.
I love it. Gary Ferman, thank you so much for taking the time. Everyone, make sure you're checking out Canesport.com and watching the videos. You do these every single morning, right? With Matt?
Yeah, Good morning, Friday. Yep. Good morning,
I love
Canesport. Yep.
I love it. Check out Good Morning Canesport. It's really a great source of information. Gary, thank you so much, man. You said a lot. I know Canes fans appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Alex. Good being with you.
Yeah, that was fantastic there. Gary Ferman, publisher at Canesport.com. David writes in, the Mario memes would be fantastic. Oh, I'm sure. It's a me, Mario. Oh, sorry, Anthony. I apologize. I just saw your question. I'll have to. I can ask. Wait, hold on. I think Gary is still in the room here. We talked. Gary, you're welcome back.
I'm still here. I was just looking at something.
Yeah. Hold on. So I'm glad I just popped Gary off. He was still in. You talked a little bit about this. Anthony probably tuned in a little bit late about his top 3.
Yeah, I haven't heard any of those guys mentioned at all. I would be surprised if they went for an assistant AD. Yeah. I mean, you're trying to rebrand this athletic department. You're trying to take it to the next level. You want an experienced guy that knows how to get things done. And I can't imagine assistant AD coming in and doing what they're doing. But you could have just stayed with Blake James.
Right. All right. I'll let you go for go Thank you so much, right, Gary. Awesome stuff there, especially being able to pinch hit and pop back in. So we'll go through some shout outs here on Donno Daily. Send a huge thank you to everybody who's tuning in today. And by the way, guys, be sure you smash that like button, hit the thumbs up, whether you're watching us on YouTube. I always forget, we also stream live on Facebook. So, because I noticed we have a Facebook like Thank you so much to the Facebook liker. You could also watch the show if for whatever reason you're not into YouTube. Who's not into YouTube? I don't know. If you're not into YouTube, you can also watch on the 5 Reasons Sports Facebook page. We stream live there as well. And make sure you guys, you're smashing that thumbs up button, the like button, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe. So huge shout out to Trevor Gaffney. Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. Anthony Manzano, thank you so much for tuning in. David, who, so we have a dislike. Is that what? Oh, no, we've got a dislike. We get at least one dislike on every episode, at least one, which is, it's fine. I told you guys last week, I do not care. If you I'm not going to lose any sleep over a dislike. In fact, when we did a show last week about the punk ass Jokic brothers, we had like 30 dislikes on that episode because we were talking about Nikola Jokic, who's a bitch. Nikola Jokic is a bitch. He attacked Markieff Morris from behind. Couldn't even do it face to face. That is not how a man fights another man. And his brothers, one of his older brothers that everybody loves so much, one of his older brothers got arrested a couple of years ago and charged with choking a woman. So, yeah, we had an episode where we were very critical about the Jokic brothers. We got like 30 dislikes on that one. Woo. Oh, man. But thanks so much to GA Kane fan. No, I don't think John Gruden's going to be up for either of these jobs. Let's thank you so much to Dash Hoost. Thank you so much for tuning in. He says Manny should leave and go back to Tallahassee. They could use a sideline hydration technician. I think that's a fancy way to say water boy. Bobby Boucher used to say that term, I think. Huge thanks to Marcel Beauville, who wants Alonzo Highsmith. I think if they were to go to Alonzo Highsmith, who he's been a successful scout and personnel guy at the NFL level. So he's got administration qualifications. It's not exactly the same thing as being an AD. So that would be my only concern, right? Like I prefer the route of luring someone who's already an athletic director at a major program, right? If I can be so selfish as to try to get someone who has direct experience for this job. But if you do want to get creative and bring in Alonzo Highsmith for AD, I think it could work. It could work, but you probably want to make sure you surround him with people who kind of understand how to manage every sport, because Alonzo, of course, his strength would be football. I think he could do a tremendous job. There's also a big fundraising aspect for athletic director, and you have to oversee all of the sports. So there's a little bit more to it than football. And listen, I'm not saying Alonzo Highsmith isn't up for it. He could very well be up for everything. He could very well be a slam dunk of a hire. Just not having direct AD experience, that is my one reservation of a guy who's not done that exact job before. So you would need to surround him with people to really help him do that job. Big Dan 305, one of our staples. Thank you so much for tuning in. Brooklyn Rob, who said Brady Hawk, too handsome for this show. Well, compared to me, anybody looks handsome. Let's be real here. I always lose out in picking up women to guys like him. That's why you developed your great sense of humor, Brooklyn Rob, so that you could, that was the one way you could overtake the good-looking fellas out there. Jay Hollicane, thank you so much. Bring the alum home from Clemson as AD. Yeah, Gary talked about him a little bit. That's definitely an attractive option there. Let's see who else tuned in today. Orlando Graziosi. That sounds like a paisan. Sounds like an Italian descent, at least. Butch Davis left FIU. Could UM reunion happen? No, the ship has sailed on that. I'm not. Of course, I'm not sure if you're being sarcastic or serious on that. Miami has had multiple chances to rehire Butch Davis, and they passed. I don't think that they're going to change their minds now. And Butch Davis, like, he's on the older side now. I would ideally, you want to bring in somebody in their late 40s up to mid 50s. I think that's kind of the range you're looking at here. We want to, Brian Monroe is my good friend. When will Brian be on to explain why donors raising money is a bad thing? Yeah, I think I saw Trevor and Brian getting into it on Twitter today. I'll bring Brian on. I'm sure he'd come on as long as he doesn't have anything major to do between 3 and 4 p.m. I don't know. I didn't catch up completely with the little discussion you guys were having on Twitter, but I do remember Brian basically saying that some of the possibilities that fans have of the next coach and AD just sound like too much of a pipe dream. So I would definitely like to have Brian on to talk a little bit more about that. I'll try and get that done later in this week. Bromar Smelly, who said, oh, he watches this show on the 85-inch TV. Woo! And guys, for those who got in late, I started the show in ultra high definition because I hooked up my DSLR camera. I finally figured out how to hook up the DSLR camera to StreamYard, and we did like the first 9 minutes of the show where you could see like all the pores on my skin. You could see all the threads on my hat. It was unbelievable high definition. But either my camera battery either died or I saw some people online saying that I have to turn off the automatic shut off setting, because I think if you leave the camera idle for a certain amount of time, it shuts off. It took me like a month to figure out how to hook the camera up. It's going to take me another month to figure out how to turn off the automatic shutdown. So eventually we'll be back in high definition. But I appreciate you watching on the 85-inch TV. That means a lot. Levon, Florida, thank you so much for tuning in. Let Diaz go now. Team is going backwards. FSU beat them. Shame. Yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong with letting him finish out the season, because you let him go. Like, what do you make? Rhett Lashley, the interim coach. I don't know. I don't think the only way I would do that is if letting Diaz go now would give you an opportunity to name your new head coach immediately. But most of the guys we're going after have current jobs right now. Like, if you want Mario Cristobal is not going to leave Oregon in mid-November and come down to Miami. Like, you'd be getting him at the end of the season. And let me be real here with Manny. Like, I think Miami can upgrade for Manny Diaz, but at least these players aren't quitting on him, right? So it's not like you're having mutinies in the locker room and it's like, oh, this is no longer sustainable for the rest of the year. Losing the Florida State game, I put most of that blame on coaching. I did. So I'm not defending the job he did against Florida State or anything like that. I really don't see, assuming the head coaches you're going after are guys who all have jobs right now and would not be coming in, this month. I just don't see an urgent need to let your head coach go right now. I really don't. Devin Jordan, thank you so much for tuning in. The Dolphins 087, thank you so much for tuning in. Lenoris Murray, thank you so much. He wants Alonzo Highsmith. Let's see who else. Ray Grullon, who always says, howdy, Dono. Howdy, Ray. Big Dan 305, GA Kane fan. I think we shouted out pretty much everybody. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And guys, remember to support our sponsors. Of course, the newest member of the Dono Daily family. Oops, I meant to make that big, not little. Hold on. BlockFi. BlockFi is the newest member of our Dono Daily family. We included a link. If you look at the show description down below on YouTube, we included our referral link at BlockFi. Earn passive income through your crypto. Earn up to 8% APY in crypto at BlockFi. It's an awesome service, great financial planning. And, I'm big in the crypto space. I want you guys to experience that as well. Make sure you guys are checking out the official sports bar of Dono Daily. That is the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. The Buffalo Shrimp, best appetizer on the planet. I love to build my own poke bowl. I love the sushi at the Quarterdeck. The sandwiches and burgers are awesome. The baby back ribs are so tender and so tasty. They have 2-for-1 drink specials. 2-for-1 happy hour is all day, every day at the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. And with the TVs they have covering every wall, that is the place to watch every big game and every UFC pay-per-view fight for zero cover charge, by the way. So if you want to peep their menu or find the location nearest to you before you go, check out quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. And guys, check out our official sports book, betus.com. They have the best bonuses in the industry, guys, and the best customer service. It's why BetUS is America's favorite sports book. You can get odds on everything. In fact, the reason why I found BetUS, and I became a customer of theirs before they joined me as a partner on this show. Like, I was a member at betus.com because I found odds on sporting events at BetUS I couldn't find on other sports books. They have everything. And of course, they have the big boys like the NFL, NBA, NHL, UFC fights, international soccer. You find fair, great odds and live betting on all of it, by the way, at betus.com. And I talk about great bonuses. You sign up with our code 5RSN125, and they're going to give you a 125% sign up bonus. So if you deposit $100, they're going to give you $125 on top of your deposit in free play money. So you can bet sports, horses, play in their online casino, It's like having Las Vegas in your pocket. Seriously, they have pop culture props on things. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Now, I think it was G.A. Kane fan earlier who told me not to sing anymore. I don't know. If I sing that tagline, you bet, you win, you get paid, does that make you more or less likely to sign up at betus.com? Because I don't know. I feel like the angelic tones of my voice, my beautiful singing voice, classically trained, by the way, I feel like that's going to make you more likely to sign up at betus.com. But maybe I'm wrong. Hello to Luke and hello to Xavier. Says, get Dorsey, the QB, for head coach. You know what? That I would not be opposed to that. He's been an incredibly successful quarterbacks coach in the NFL. I wanted him for offensive coordinator of the Dolphins last year. They didn't listen to me. Instead of hiring Ken Dorsey, they elevated Godsey and Studisville and Charlie Fry, and you've got the three-headed Cerberus as your offensive coordinator. I wanted them to hire Ken Dorsey. Nobody listens to me. Obviously Dorsey doesn't have head coaching experience, but I think he could do a job here. He wouldn't be at the top. Mario Cristobal's at the top of my list, though. Lane Kiffin is number 2, but I like Dorsey. How about this? You bring in Mario, and then you bring in his old pal Dorsey to be his offensive coordinator. How about them apples, right? 2 birds with 1 stone, bros. 2 birds with 1 stone. Oh, G.A. Kane fan says he can't bet in Georgia. Are you sure? G.A. Kane fan, go to betus.com. And just confirm to me you cannot sign up in Georgia, because I feel like you can. I don't know for sure. But I feel like you can. And hell, move out of Georgia if you can't use betus.com in Georgia. All right, guys, that'll do it for us. Want to send a huge shout out and a huge thank you to everybody who took part in the show today. We just sent out the shout outs. Thanks again to everybody who joined us. Huge thanks to Gary Ferman. That was an awesome interview. If you guys missed it, go back and watch it. Brady Hawk was also awesome. That was a very different conversation. We were talking Miami Heat basketball with Brady, but he was sensational. As always, we talked everything Canes with Gary Ferman. So if you missed any part of the show, catch the replay. As soon as we cut this live stream off, the replay will be available on YouTube. We will talk to you guys again tomorrow, right here at 3 p.m. on another episode of Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Ciao.